You ever notice how they call it common sense, but nobody seems to have it anymore? It's like Bigfoot. Everyone talks about it, but no one's actually seen it in real life. People say, use your common sense, as if it's some kind of app you can download. Sorry, folks, if it's not on TikTok, most people can't find it. Once upon a time, common sense meant you didn't stick your hand in fire, you didn't trust politicians, and you didn't believe every commercial that said anew and improved. Now, people microwave metal, vote for billionaires who hate the poor, and buy bottled water from the same tap that fills their toilet. Now, common sense isn't dying, it's extinct. We replaced it with opinions. We replaced logic with the feelings. We replaced knowledge with the Google searches. Everyone's an expert now, especially the ones who failed science class. And somehow the people with the least sense talk the most. So next time someone tells you it's just common sense, look around. If it were really that common, we wouldn't be this stupid. You ever notice how people love to say, use your common sense? Like it's some kind of universal thing floating around in the air. You just reach up, grab a handful, and boom, you're smart. But have you looked around lately? Common sense isn't common anymore. It's like trying to find an honest politician, a healthy fast food meal, or a quiet neighbor with no opinions. It used to mean something. It used to be that thing everyone had a little bit of. That little voice that said, don't touch the hot stove. Or maybe don't lend your car to your cousin who's been arrested twice for grand theft auto. But now, that little voice is gone. It's been replaced by TikTok challenges and hashtags. People don't have common sense anymore. They have Wi-Fi. That's their brain now. They don't think, they search. They don't reason, they react. You ask someone a question and they don't give you an answer. They give you whatever Google said first. That's not thinking. That's copy and paste for the brain. We used to have people who could fix things, build things, understand how stuff works. Now you got people who can't even change a light bulb without watching a tutorial titled How Not to Electrocute Yourself. Common sense used to be about observation. You saw what worked, what didn't, and you learned. Now people don't observe anything, they scroll. The average person spends more time staring at their phone than thinking about their life. They'll walk into traffic while texting a lull almost died, and they'll mean it. Common sense would tell you not to walk into moving vehicles, but I guess that's too much to ask. It's funny. We live in the most advanced society in history, yet somehow the dumbest. We got cars that can drive themselves, phones that talk to us, and refrigerators that can order milk. And with all that technology, we can't even agree on basic facts. We argue about everything. Science, whether even what shape the Earth is. Half the planet thinks the other half is crazy, and both sides are probably right. You can't have common sense when no one can even agree on what's true anymore. You'd think common sense would tell people not to believe every headline they see online. But no, people see aliens confirm flat earth theory and immediately share it with their friends. Common sense would say, maybe check if that's real, but no one's got time for that. People have traded sense for speed. They just want to be the first to believe something stupid. And then there's politics. Oh, you knew this was coming. The death of common sense is most obvious in politics. People keep voting for the same crooks who lie to them every 4 years, and then they act shocked when nothing changes. How could this happen? Because you voted for the guy who said it wouldn't. You believed the millionaire who told you he cares about working people. You believe the slogan instead of the system. That's not common sense. That's common stupidity. And the best part? You'll do it again next election like a hamster running on a wheel. Common sense would tell you that corporations don't care about you. But people still believe the commercial that says, we're here for you. They think their bank wants to help them, their phone company wants to save them money, and their food company wants them healthy. No, they want you broke, dependent, and too distracted to notice. Nah, if common sense were still alive, people would see right through the marketing, the manipulation, the nonsense. But instead, they buy it, literally. Even simple everyday things are proof that common sense packed its bags and left the planet. You got warning labels on everything now because people can't figure out not to drink bleach or stick their hand in a blender. The fact that a coffee cup has to say, caution, Hotch tells you everything about where humanity's at. We're a species that needs instructions for survival written on every product. You think the cavemen needed a sign that said, "Don't pet the saber-toothed tiger"? They just knew. And let's not forget how people behave in public. Common sense would say, "Don't scream on your phone in a quiet restaurant." Common sense would say, "Let people off the train before you get on." But no. Now it's every man for himself. People cut lines, block doors, talk loud, and act shocked when someone calls them out. We've built a world where courtesy and logic are seen as optional features. Education was supposed to fix that, right? We've got schools, colleges, degrees, people with diplomas and everything. But education doesn't give you sense, it just gives you words. You can have a PhD and still not know how to cross the street safely. You can be a genius in theory and a fool in practice. Common sense is the kind of intelligence you can't teach in a classroom. It comes from awareness, not information. And awareness is exactly what's disappearing. You know what replaced common sense? Feelings. Everything now is about how people feel. Facts don't matter, logic doesn't matter. If it hurts someone's feelings, it's wrong. If it makes them happy, it's right. We used to make decisions based on reason, now we make them based on emotion. People don't ask, "Is it true?" They ask, "Do I like it?" That's how you end up with entire groups believing nonsense, because it's comforting. Common sense doesn't comfort. It challenges. It's supposed to make you think, not feel better. The irony is that everyone thinks they have common sense. That's the funniest part. Every idiot on the planet thinks they're the one with a good judgment. People say it's just common sense right before doing something unbelievably stupid. They'll crash their car while texting and then say, "Well, accidents happen." No, stupidity happens. Common sense would have prevented it, but common sense was too busy trying to survive in a world that doesn't value it. So, yeah, they call it a common sense, but there's nothing common about it anymore. It's become rare, like good manners, honest news, and affordable rent. You'd have better luck finding a unicorn than finding a room full of people using their brains at the same time. You ever notice how we've turned into a species that worships opinions like they're sacred relics? Somewhere along the line, logic took a back seat and emotion got the steering wheel. People don't think anymore. They feel. They don't ask, "Is this true?" They ask, "Does this make me feel good?" And if it does, that's all they need. That's the new standard for reality. Truth used to matter. Now it's about comfort. Facts used to mean something. Now they're just optional extras like power windows in a cheap car. We live in a world where opinions are currency, and everyone's rich with nonsense. Once upon a time, logic was the thing that separated us from the animals. Now the animals might be ahead. They act on instinct, and somehow that's smarter than what we've been doing. People today are addicted to outrage. They don't want to understand, they want to react. They read a headline, not an article. They see a clip, not the full story. They scroll, not study. And when they finally form an opinion, they hold on to it like it's a family heirloom. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. What matters is it's theirs. We've turned debate into a sport. It's not about learning, it's about winning. Everyone wants to be right, but no one wants to be reasonable. You can show people evidence, charts, logic, the works, and they'll just say, "Well, that's your opinion." No, that's not my opinion. That's math. That's physics. But logic doesn't stand a chance in a world where emotion runs the show. Reason used to be the adult in the room. Now it's the quiet kid nobody listens to while the loud idiots scream over each other. You can see it everywhere. In politics, in media, in social conversation. People pick sides like they're joining football teams. My side good, your side evil. That's it. No gray area, no nuance, just pure tribal noise. And every tribe thinks they're the smart ones. They all say, "We're the logical side." Sure you are. That's why you're yelling in the comment section at 3 a.m. over something you barely understand. Common sense says maybe go to bed. Emotion says, destroy that stranger online. Guess which one wins? Logic asks questions. Emotion gives answers. Logic says, let's test this. Emotion says, I already know. Logic takes time, emotion is instant, and people today don't have patience for thought. Thinking takes effort, and we're allergic to effort. We want opinions that fit neatly into our schedule. 280 characters or less, please. We want to feel informed without doing the hard part of getting informed. That's why misinformation spreads so easily. It's fast, it's emotional, and it feels good. Who cares if it's true? It made me feel smart for 5 seconds. That's enough. Even our conversations have changed. We don't talk to each other anymore, we perform. Everyone's got a script in their head. Lines they repeat that sound clever but mean nothing. I'm just saying, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Yeah, but not every opinion deserves a microphone. Some opinions belong in the garbage with the rest of the bad ideas. But now, if you disagree, people act like you've committed a crime. How dare you challenge my feelings? Well, because your feelings aren't facts, that's why. Logic is like an old friend we stopped calling because it made us uncomfortable. Logic tells you things you don't want to hear. It says you might be wrong. It says the problem might be you. Emotion, on the other hand, says you're perfect. And people always go for the compliment. We built a whole culture around avoiding discomfort. Self-help books, motivational quotes, fake positivity, all of it designed to make people feel good without changing anything. Meanwhile, the truth sits there in the corner, ignored like a boring guest at a party. It's not just individuals either. Whole systems run on emotion now. Media companies don't care about truth, they care about clicks. Politicians don't care about solutions, they care about reactions. They say whatever stirs up the crowd, whatever gets the retweets, whatever keeps the cameras rolling. They sell outrage because outrage sells. And the audience eats it up because feeling angry makes them feel alive. It's emotional junk food, zero nutrition, just stimulation. You can't reason with a crowd that wants to be entertained more than informed. Try having a calm discussion about anything. Vaccines, climate, money, religion, and watch how fast people explode. Logic would say, let's consider the data. Emotion says, you're attacking my identity. Everyone's identity is now wrapped around their opinions, so any disagreement feels like war. That's why we can't solve problems anymore. Too busy protecting our egos. And don't get me started on social media, the church of emotion. Every post is a confession of feelings. I'm angry. I'm sad. Oh, I'm offended. I'm so tired. Everyone broadcasting their inner weather report every 5 minutes. Nobody asks, does this make sense? They just post it, hashtag it, and wait for validation. Common sense would say, maybe think before you share. But emotion doesn't wait. Emotion hits send. Logic builds bridges. Emotion burns them. Logic says, and maybe we're both partly right. Emotion says, if you're not with me, you're against me, and we wonder why society feels so divided. It's not just politics or culture, it's a collective allergy to reason. People think listening to the other side means betrayal. It doesn't. It means maturity. But maturity isn't trending right now. Outrage is. Ignorance gets engagement. Nuance doesn't go viral. We're drowning in data but starving for wisdom. Information everywhere. Sense nowhere. People memorize statistics they don't understand just to win arguments they don't mean. We confuse being loud with being right. We confuse confidence with competence. And we confuse emotional satisfaction with truth. That's the real problem. We think feeling certain is the same as being correct. So here we are, in a world where logic whispers and emotion screams, and the crowd listens to the one that makes the most noise. Maybe one day we'll realize that being loud isn't the same as being smart. But knowing us, we'll probably just argue about it online. Because that feels better than thinking about it. Do you ever notice that questioning stupidity has become the most dangerous thing you can do? You can rob a bank, lie on your taxes, cheat on your spouse, and people will forgive you. But the second you ask a dumb question like, why do we do it this way? Suddenly everyone looks at you like you just kicked their dog. We built an entire civilization on the idea that thinking critically is optional. You're supposed to follow, not question. You're supposed to believe what you're told, repeat it loudly, and pretend that makes you smart. The majority loves being the majority. They get comfort out of it. No. They think, if most people believe this, it must be true. No, it means most people are too lazy to check. The truth has never been a democracy. You don't get to vote on facts. 2 plus 2 doesn't become 5 just because everyone's chanting it. But that's the way the world runs now. The crowd decides what's real, and if you disagree, you're the problem. You're the weirdo, the conspiracy nut, the pessimist. The herd doesn't like anyone walking in a different direction. It confuses them. That's why stupidity flourishes. It's protected by numbers. The more people doing the dumb thing, the safer it feels. If 1 million people believe in something stupid, suddenly it becomes culture. You question it, you're the outcast. Look at advertising, religion, politics, all built on this same trick. They feed the crowd what they want to hear, and the crowd claps like trained seals. You try to point out the scam, and they bark at you for ruining the show. People don't want to think, they want to belong. The majority thought segregation made sense and lead paint was harmless. The majority has been wrong so many times you'd think we'd stop trusting it. But no, people still act like numbers equal wisdom. All numbers prove is that ignorance travels fast. Every major progress in human history came from someone who questioned the majority. Every discovery, every revolution, every act of real freedom began with one person saying, "Oh, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense." That's how progress works. Not by obedience, but by defiance. The thinkers are always hated first and celebrated later. They burn you at the stake today and build you a statue tomorrow. That's how humanity thanks people who think. So when you see the world doing something stupid, don't just shrug and join in. Don't say everyone's doing it. That's never been a good reason for anything. Everyone once thought the sun revolved around the earth. Everyone once thought smoking was classy. Everyone once thought buying junk would make them happy. Everyone's been wrong before. And they're wrong again right now about something else. Question it. All of it. Question everything that smells like stupidity. Especially the things everyone agrees on. Because that's where the biggest lies hide. Right in the middle of the crowd wearing the mask of common sense. So maybe that's the punchline, folks. Common sense was never common. It was just quieter. It's been whispering in the background while the world screams nonsense into a megaphone. We built our shiny, loud, digital society on arrogance, emotion, and convenience, and somehow we're shocked that it doesn't make sense anymore. We traded thinking for reacting, questioning for following, truth for comfort. And now we're standing knee-deep in confusion, wondering who turned out the lights. Common sense isn't a gift, it's a choice. It's the choice to stop, look around, and say, "Oh wait, this doesn't add up." It's the courage to be the one who doesn't clap when everyone else is applauding stupidity. It's that little spark in your brain that says, "I may not know the answer, but I know bullshit when I see it." And that spark, that's what we're losing. You can't buy it, you can't download it, and you can't fake it with a quote on social media. You have to earn it, through awareness, humility, and a healthy dose of skepticism. The problem is, most people don't want wisdom. They want approval. They don't want truth. They want validation. And that's why common sense is dying. Not because it disappeared, but because people stopped listening to it. So maybe the real act of rebellion today isn't shouting louder, it's thinking deeper. Maybe the smartest thing you can do is the simplest: question everything, trust little, and never assume the crowd knows where it's going. Because if history's taught us anything, it's that the crowd is usually heading straight for the cliff, waving flags, chanting slogans, and calling it progress. And when they finally go over the edge, they'll look back and blame the few who stayed behind for being a negative. But that's all right, because someone has to stay on solid ground. Someone has to remember what common sense used to sound like before the noise took over.